for the Lubbock ordinance is that any abortion that takes place within the city limits of Lubbock, if that takes place, then any family member of that unborn child can sue the abortionist and anyone who aided and abetted the abortionist for the death of that family member. And that's immediate. So that can happen. Those lawsuits can go into play. And it's not just the family members of the unborn child. Anyone could actually sue the abortionist for that.
So another question from the abortion side, they say that it violates the Texas Constitution. Is that true or not?
It's not true at all. So across the board, there's nothing in the Constitution of the state of Texas or the United States Constitution for that matter that gives a right to abortion. And also the laws of Texas and the laws of the United States, this is completely consistent with those as well. And the pre-Roe statutes, which actually criminalize abortion unless it's a life, in the case of the life of a mother, those are still in the books. They've never been repealed. And so those are on the books. Abortion is a criminal act according to state law here in Texas, and now by city law here in Lubbock as well.
So, Mark, we got some people reacting on our page right now. A couple people saying this makes my day, things like that. If you have a question for Mark Lee Dixon, you can go to our Facebook page at Created Equal and ask. Again, breaking news coming out of Texas. Lubbock, Texas has outlawed abortion, the largest city to do so since the launch of the Sanctuary Cities project. Mark, let's continue on in some of these questions. The lawsuit issue, I mean, the city of Lubbock wasn't concerned about that. You had the ACLU last year sue, but then withdraw the lawsuit. Is the ACLU threatening to sue this time?
Well, the ACLU is going to say that this is unconstitutional. They said that about the other abortion bans. But the other abortion bans are still standing. Abortion is still outlawed in Wascom and Joaquin and the other cities that outlawed abortion. And so, for something that's unconstitutional, quote unquote, it's still standing. They're not going after the abortion bans in those cities. And so I think that we're going to just continue to outlaw abortion city by city. And if the ACLU wants to bring a lawsuit, then so be it. We'll fight it and we'll win.
Amen. Again, breaking news coming out of Texas. The city of Lubbock has outlawed abortion. Largest city to date doing this in a 62-37 vote. Mark, I've told you I've done something similar like this in Albuquerque, New Mexico, when we tried to outlaw 20-week abortions. That went down, though. We lost that vote 52-48. That was in 2013. I actually got arrested that week at a polling center. Long story. We won't get into that. But, I was skeptical that this was going to make it because the pro-abortion forces, obviously, they raise a whole bunch of money. They have more resources generally than the pro-life side, but they didn't prevail in this one. So I think this is huge news and gives us further momentum as we're trying to bring more sanctuary cities for the unborn online. And so, folks, if you want to be part of the Sanctuary Cities for the Unborn project, you just go to sanctuarycitiesfortheunborn.com. There is a petition, or you could call it a questionnaire that you would fill out and say, I'm interested in doing this in my city. You could be the next Lubbock, Texas. And then Mark will take a look at that information. And then he kind of looks at it and sees whether it's a feasible thing to be doing, because we're getting interest from all over the country. So we've got to take, we've got to take these one at a time. But we want you to go to sanctuarycitiesfortheunborn.com, fill out the questionnaire, fill out the petition, and then we'll get back to you and see if this is something that could get done in your town. Also, folks, I want to make sure that if you're not aware that we have established, that is the Mark Harrington Show, has now established its own separate YouTube channel. And you can go to markharringtonshow.com to find out about that. We've come to you every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. That's our normal program. But I wanted to come to you today live because of the breaking news. So, hey, Mark, I saw a lot of the activity there in Lubbock. Everybody seemed very pumped about it all. Were you feeling confident beforehand? And where do we go from here?
Well, it was very
Are you
surreal
there?
moment. Yes, sir. It's a very surreal moment.
Hello?
So, can you hear me?
Uh, go ahead.
It was a very surreal moment
Yeah,
to
go
see.
ahead.
It was a very surreal moment to see the city of Lubbock, those votes coming in, to see that it was a landslide election. And so it was very exciting. Of course, when we saw the early voting numbers, there was no way the other side could make it up. And so we got to announce fairly early. And the thing about Lubbock is the 11th largest city in the state of Texas. And so this is not a small city by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, it is the 83rd largest city in the United States of America. And so it's in the 0.4 percentile of cities. So we're looking at a very, very large city here, and it's exciting. I hope to see more cities in the coming weeks do the same thing that Lubbock did. And you know what? Whether it's a city of the size of Lubbock or whether it's a city the size of, a few hundred people, I'm still going to celebrate it just the same, because every city that stands up, that's a victory. And they're all like children to me. I mean, you got to love them all, whether it's a city of 314 or whether it's a city of 264,000. You got to love them all.
Amen. And folks, if you live in the state of Ohio, we're also trying to get it done here. Obviously, we're not going to tell you what cities we're working on. We wouldn't want to tip our hat to the pro-abortion side because they take, preemptive action against us. But a lot of other states are starting to come online. Mark, I know that you're working in a lot of other states. The scripture is clear. There's two passages that I'd like to share that have something to do with this local, about politics being local. The first is Amos 5, verse 15, that says, hate evil, love good, and establish justice in the gate. That's basically talking about taking things locally. And also in Joshua 20, God set apart these cities as cities of refuge, places where if there was an accidental killer, the individual could flee to a city and be a city of refuge against the blood avenger. It's not completely analogous to a sanctuary city where we're talking about the unborn who are totally innocent and have committed no crime, but it's the same kind of idea, and that is that there's a place to go to avoid the killing. In this case, in Joshua 20, it's just to allow some time to try to, basically come to the facts in that, so the blood avenger could not take action against the person who was involved in the accidental killing. But the idea is kind of the same. And that is that all politics is local. The Bible talks about that. That was coined also politically by former U.S. Speaker of the House, Tip O'Neill, during the Reagan years. So we believe all politics is local. We believe that that's where we need to be taking action against abortion. So, hey, Mark, if you would, there's a question online here saying, questioning, and by the way, folks, if you have a question, go to our Facebook page at Created Equal. One of the questions is the abortion pill outlawed as well?
Absolutely. So these ordinances, we do things differently in different places. but the abortion pill, um, the prescribing of that is a criminal act. Now, in the Lubbock ordinance, we do not treat the abortion pill itself as contraband, but we do treat the abortion pill as contraband in the Nebraska ordinances. And that's something we just didn't do in the Lubbock ordinance, but it is something that I think we can see in the future in more ordinances.
And by contraband, what do you mean? It's just treated as an illegal drug, so someone with a possession of the abortion pill would be prosecuted? Is that how it works?
Correct. And of course, the way it's used in the Lubbock ordinance is that the prescribing of the abortion pill is a criminal act, but the possession of it is not. But in Nebraska, it is a criminal act to possess the abortion pill.
Right, and as I said before, I think this is a huge part of the project. That is that 40% of all abortions are pill abortions nowadays. So if you don't deal with the abortion pill, then you're not really taking on the whole issue, and that's why I feel these ordinances are such a great idea. So, Mark,
hey, I got a report that came in this morning because there were some people outside of the abortion facility, and they were just kind of seeing what was happening. And there was a woman who arrived there, and she said that Planned Parenthood is not, because they're right now, so they started performing abortions on April 15th.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that, because they have a Planned Parenthood that's already set up in Lubbock.
So they just started doing abortions less than, about 2 weeks ago. And they were doing medication abortion. So they were doing the pill RU486. And this morning we got a great report that someone was standing there on the sidewalk. Someone was going in, and they said that they are not doing abortions because of the law. And so that's proof right there that if we pass good laws that say that we can't do these things, well, if they are going to obey the law, they're going to have to comply to that.
So is there a citizen's right of action in this ordinance, or I'm sorry, in this referendum too?
Yeah, so the ordinance, and it is an ordinance, it was passed. And so the private enforcement is the ability for citizens to sue anyone who performs an abortion or assists in the performing of that abortion. And so that is something, as long as it takes place within the city limits of Lubbock. So
that's a civil action, not a criminal action. I mean, that's a civil lawsuit.
And the thing is, so in that though, so abortion is, though, by the law of the city, abortion is outlawed. So it is a criminal act here in the city of Lubbock. And of course, we have those pre-Roe statutes that's on the books that have never been repealed. So us saying that's a criminal act is not going against the laws of the state of Texas, because those laws still exist. Now, so it's a criminal act here in Texas, because those laws are still in the books. And so we're calling it a criminal act. We're just lining ourselves up. City law is lining itself up with those pre-Roe statutes. And we're just saying abortion's murder. Abortion's a criminal act, and it doesn't need to take place here. And if it does, it's against the law.
So, friends, again, if you have a question, go to our Facebook page at Created Equal. We're talking to Mark Lee Dixon from Sanctuary Cities for the Unborn. And you can become a sanctuary. You can be part of a Sanctuary Cities for the Unborn by going to sanctuarycitiesfortheunborn.com. You can fill out the petition right there. You can fill out the questionnaire and give us the information that we need to evaluate your city and see if it's one that we would want to work with you on. Right now, we're getting a lot of interest from around the country because a lot of people are just sick of the corruption in Washington, D.C. They're sick of the gridlock. They know that very little, if anything's going to get done in Washington. And for a very long time, that has not been the case. We've been able to get things done in Washington, D.C. So we're looking to the local, and we've been doing that here in Ohio forever. I mean, we started with the Heartbeat Bill in 2011 to defy Roe v. Wade, deny it, basically say that Roe v. Wade is not the law of the land, that we can ignore it and continue on and pass the types of laws we need to criminalize abortion in our own state and our own cities. And so we're trying to do that here in the state of Ohio. There are other people around the country doing the same thing. And if you want to be part of it, again, go to sanctuarycitiesfortheunborn.com if you want to be part of this national growing national effort. Again, we got breaking news coming out of Lubbock, Texas, that the citizens there voted to outlaw abortion within the city limits. It's the largest city to do it so far, and it's now the 26th city to do it in America. So, Mark, we're getting a lot of kudos on the page here, thanking you for your hard work. And it's really big news that Planned Parenthood is at least shut down today. They're probably taking time to evaluate what they're going to do from here forward. But I mean, they are running the risk, at least at minimum, of running up against some private civil actions that they might get lawsuits if they continue to perform abortions within the city limits. I guess that would be my take on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's interesting is, so the donor reports have been released. Like you have the 30-day before the election donor reports, and you have the 8-day before the election donor reports. And it's very interesting how much money Planned Parenthoods poured into this across the United States. And of course, you can see what they spent that money on. There was a lot spent on legal. And it's interesting that with as much that has been spent, their statement on Saturday was that they will do abortions when possible, which is a very interesting statement there. They also said that they're going to follow all legal restrictions. And so what we're hearing is that, at least right now, like you said, there's not going to be abortions in Lubbock, Texas. And so, if they were to start performing abortions, then, I mean, that would be against the law. They'd be breaking the law, which would open up to other possibilities. And so this is going to be interesting to see how this develops. But I'm hoping that Planned Parenthood, they ran a passionate campaign. They lost, but they ran a passionate campaign, and they gave it their best. They gave it their best, and I trust that they will accept the results of the election and that they'll follow the law.
Well, it's hope and it gets hope when you're talking about Planned Parenthood, but I'm with you. I hope you're right. Clearly, the fact that they're not performing abortions today, committing abortions, is a good thing. And I'm certain that babies are being saved as we speak right now that otherwise would have been killed if Planned Parenthood would have gotten their way. So anyway, so Mark, I want to wrap this up here. If you would give us your summary on this whole thing, and exhort our followers on Facebook on how to get involved in the next steps if they want to become a sanctuary city for the unborn.
Well, I would just really encourage you that when you sign that petition, don't not share it. Yeah, you need to get your church behind this. You need to get your pastor behind it. You need to help them understand how it's so important. No matter where you live, the Biden administration has said that they want to see abortion access in every zip code. So if you're living in a place with a zip code, you need to see this ordinance passed. And what we saw in Lubbock is that 200 churches united together, and those churches preached from the pulpit. They put vote for life signs on their churches. They got out the vote. And that's what happens when the church stands up and the church is not silent. Then we see the hating of evil, the loving of good, and the establishment of justice within the city gates. We cannot do this without the Church of Jesus Christ.
Amen. Well, I appreciate it. Mark, we're getting all our abolitionist trolls on our page now. Nothing's ever good enough for these people. They're the ones who say that we ought to follow the left when it comes to outlawing or permitting weed and creating sanctuary city, or allowing or looking at the left when it comes to not enforcing weed laws in cities or illegal immigration. But when it comes to a sanctuary city for the unborn, somehow they have a problem with that. They don't want to use that kind of example for abortion when it comes to the local level. But they talk about weed being, ignored as far as enforcing weed laws, enforcing illegal immigration laws. And when a city takes a stand and outlaws abortion, somehow these folks, that still isn't good enough for them. And they'll find something wrong with the second coming, in my opinion. That's just how I see things. Somebody here says the heartbeat bill did not defy Roe v. Wade. Well, it could have if the state government would have said we are going to enforce the law. It just didn't have it in the law itself to defy Roe v. Wade, which is the death knell for any bill. You put that in there, you might as well not even bother trying to pass it, because people, most legislators and state governments don't want to be seen as setting up a confrontation that might even lead to tanks being rolled into their state or being perceived as seceding from the union or something of that nature. It's hard enough to criminalize abortion and pass a law in your state, or for that matter, in the local area, without having to have your legislators or your city council or whoever basically sign up to be lining up their state for federal action. So it's good enough to try to criminalize abortion within the local and state level, and leave it to the legislators to enforce the law and enforce the law without having to build it in. That's my opinion anyway.
Well,
of course, nothing's ever good enough. The left never fights each other. It's the conservatives and the Christians. We shoot spitballs at each other when something good like this happens, instead of looking at it as a major victory and one of many ways to bring about the complete abolition of abortion.
Absolutely. I think we got to do with everything that we have. And, there are cities out there. Tennessee's laws, I'm just going to be completely straight up honest with you. I mean, I looked at the penalties that can be done in Tennessee. It's not much according to city law. It's $50 for violation of an ordinance. For Nebraska, the limit is $500. And so is that great? No. But we do as much as we can within the law. And then we tell our legislators that, hey, we need to be able to up these fines, that y'all have got to change the Constitution that we're working under to allow for greater fines on one end of things. But to say that, we should do nothing as opposed to something, I mean, when I go out a sidewalk and I speak for life, do I shut down the clinic? No, but I save as many lives as I can. I preach the gospel, and I celebrate those.
These folks are barking dogs in the parade route for me. It's a crazy thing that they're taking offense to the idea that they've outlawed abortion in a city, and that's just not good enough. But we passed the heartbeat bill in 2019, and to date, I haven't seen one abolition bill put up by the abolitionists here in the state. 2 years have passed. 2 years have passed in this state, and yet, if it weren't for the heartbeat bill, nothing would have gotten done. So it's an all or nothing strategy. It's failed before. It'll fail again. The left knows how to incrementally roll back and bring about its social reform, social change. But somehow we haven't learned that. We want to fight with each other. And I don't want to get distracted on this, but it's funny. Planned Parenthood isn't the people we end up fighting on this. It's people within supposedly our own movement. who just can't get off this broken record of being a contrarian. But anyway,
The last 8 days, Planned Parenthood and the other groups, for one political PAC, they spent it's like $290,000.
yeah, I guess
And so,
they see it as a threat. I wonder why some people on our side can't. If Planned Parenthood's willing to spend that kind of money, they know something's up. They're not ignoring it, right?
right.
I mean, they're not ignoring it. So obviously they see it as a threat and they're going to stand up against it. Anyway, Mark, let's wrap it up. I appreciate your work, folks. If you want to be part of the Sanctuary Cities for the Unborn project, you can go to sanctuarycitiesfortheunborn.com, sign up. You can fill out the petition if you'd like to get this done in your own city. And folks, this can get done. Right now, we've had 26 cities that have already outlawed abortion. It's going to continue because cities want to take ownership over their own geographical area. It's all politics is local. It's taking it down to the local area, not just the state. Giving up on the federal government. We've done that for now 10 or 15 years. Really, I've basically said that Roe is not the law of the land and it should not be followed. I've been saying that for decades. Somehow that's now a new thing to some people anyway. But people are finally understanding that we have to keep doing what we're doing irrespective of the Roe decision. So sanctuarycitiesfortheunborn.com, folks, if you want to be part of the effort. So Mark, thanks for being on the program. Great work there in Lubbock, and we'll stay in touch with you.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time. God bless.